It starts with something so small you've probably never even registered it as strange. You're sitting on the couch, and for no obvious reason the weight in your chest gets heavier. Maybe it's a bad day at work, a breakup, a phone call you wish you never answered, and within seconds, without a single word spoken, your dog is there. Not bouncing over for a treat, not asking to go outside. Just there, pressed against your leg or resting a heavy head on your knee, eyes locked onto your face with an intensity that almost feels human. Most owners smile, pet their dog, and move on with their day, completely unaware that they just witnessed one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the animal kingdom. Because what your dog is doing in that moment isn't comfort-seeking. It isn't coincidence. It's detection. Your dog just read your internal emotional state with a level of precision that most human therapists would envy. And what happens next inside that furry skull is so biologically sophisticated that scientists have only recently begun to understand it. If you've ever felt like your dog somehow knew, you were sad before you even realized it yourself, stay with me, because by the end of this you will never look at that moment the same way again. To understand what's actually happening, we have to go back roughly 15,000 years, to the first wolves who dared to sit at the edge of human firelight instead of running from it. That decision, repeated across countless generations, didn't just create a new species of loyal companion. It created a creature whose entire nervous system became finely tuned to one primary survival strategy: reading us. While other animals evolved sharper claws or faster legs, dogs evolved something arguably more powerful: the ability to decode the human face, the human voice, and yes, the human emotional state, with an accuracy unmatched by any other species on Earth, including our closest primate relatives. This wasn't an accident of domestication. It was the entire point. Dogs that could sense a shift in their human's mood, that could anticipate anger, fear, or sadness before it escalated, survived. Dogs that couldn't, didn't. 15,000 years of that pressure built a brain that is, quite literally, a sadness detection machine. Here's where the neuroscience gets genuinely astonishing. When you experience sadness, your body doesn't just change internally, it broadcasts that change outward in ways you have almost no control over. Your cortisol levels shift. Your breathing pattern slows and deepens. Your posture drops, your muscles relax in specific patterns, and most importantly, your scent chemistry actually changes. Human sweat contains chemical signatures tied directly to emotional state, and a dog's nose, equipped with up to 300 million olfactory receptors compared to our measly 6 million, can detect these shifts in stress hormones almost instantly. If your dog has ever come to find you within moments of you starting to cry in another room, before you called for them, before they could have seen your face, type 1 in the comments right now. Because what you experienced was your dog's olfactory system performing biochemical detective work that no human technology can currently replicate. But scent is only the opening chapter. The real magic happens in how your dog processes your face. Researchers using MRI scanning on fully awake, unrestrained dogs discovered something remarkable. The canine brain has a dedicated region that activates specifically in response to human facial expressions, and it responds more strongly to sad or distressed faces than to neutral ones. This isn't a trained trick. This is an evolved neurological pathway, similar in function to regions in the human brain responsible for empathy. When your dog tilts its head while looking at you, it isn't confusion. It's active processing, repositioning its ears to better triangulate your vocal tone, while simultaneously widening its visual field to capture more of your facial microexpressions. Your dog is running a full sensory analysis on your emotional state in real time, and it is doing so instinctively, the same way you instinctively flinch at a loud noise. Now here is the part almost nobody talks about, the part that transforms this from an interesting fact into something genuinely profound. When your dog detects your sadness, its own body begins to change too. Studies measuring cortisol levels in dogs have found that when their owner experiences emotional distress, The dog's own stress hormone levels rise in tandem. This is called emotional contagion, and it's one of the earliest, most primitive forms of empathy found in the animal kingdom. Your sadness doesn't just get observed by your dog. It gets absorbed. Your dog is not performing comfort. Your dog is, on some biochemical level, actually sharing your pain. If you've ever noticed your dog seeming unusually clingy, restless, or subdued during a period when you were going through something difficult, type 2 in the comments, because your dog wasn't just reacting to your behavior. Its own nervous system was mirroring your emotional storm. This is where the behavior you see on the surface, the leaning, the head resting on your lap, the unbroken eye contact, reveals its true purpose. That physical closeness isn't random affection. It's a calculated, evolved intervention. Physical contact triggers oxytocin release in both you and your dog simultaneously, creating what researchers call an oxytocin feedback loop. As your dog presses against you, your oxytocin rises, your cortisol begins to drop, your heart rate slows, and your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest counterpart to fight or flight, starts to activate. Your dog's oxytocin also rises in response to your calming physiology, reinforcing the bond and reinforcing the behavior. In other words, your dog isn't just recognizing your sadness. It is actively, biologically working to regulate it, using its own body as a therapeutic instrument, refined over 15,000 years of coevolution to be devastatingly effective at exactly this task. And this is precisely where 90% of owners unknowingly sabotage the moment. When a dog approaches during sadness, the instinctive human reaction is often to push them away gently, to say, "Not now," to remain closed off in our own emotional isolation, because we've been culturally trained to process grief privately, quietly, alone. But every time you turn away from that approach, you're interrupting a biological support system that your dog is actively trying to deploy. You are, in a very real sense, rejecting the one form of nonverbal comfort your dog has spent its entire evolutionary history perfecting. Dogs who are repeatedly rebuffed during these moments don't just feel confused. Over time, some show measurable increases in anxious attachment behavior, becoming more clingy, more hypervigilant to your emotional state, because the natural regulatory loop between you was never allowed to complete. If you've ever pushed your dog away during a hard moment and later felt a pang of guilt about it, type 3 in the comments, because you are far from alone, and understanding this changes everything about how you respond next time. What makes this even more remarkable is that dogs don't limit this response to their own owners. Experiments have shown dogs approaching and offering comfort to distressed strangers, sometimes prioritizing a crying stranger over a neutral or humming one, suggesting this isn't simple attachment behavior, but something closer to genuine, generalized empathy. Your dog isn't comforting you merely because you are the source of food and shelter. Your dog is comforting you because somewhere in that evolved brain, sadness itself has become a signal worth responding to, a call that demands answering, regardless of who is making it. That is not domestication. That is something closer to compassion, wearing fur and 4 legs, refined across 15 millennia into an instinct as automatic as breathing. So the next time you feel that familiar weight of sadness settle over you, and you notice your dog quietly shift position, ears softening, eyes fixed on your face, body drifting closer without being called, understand what you are actually witnessing. You are not simply being accompanied. You are being read, analyzed, and biologically supported by a creature whose entire evolutionary purpose became, in part, to notice when you are breaking and to sit beside you while you heal. 15,000 years ago, a wolf chose to trust the flicker of human firelight instead of the safety of the dark forest. In exchange, we gave that lineage food and shelter. But somewhere across those thousands of generations, they gave us something arguably greater, a living, breathing early warning system for our own hearts, a species that learned to love us not despite our sadness, but because of it. So the next time your dog leans into you during a hard moment, Don't push them away. Let them do what 15,000 years of evolution built them to do. And if this changed the way you'll look at your dog tonight, make sure you're subscribed, because next week we're going even deeper into the hidden language your dog has been speaking to you all along.